if we were looking at billable hours in the wrong light? Have you considered it? Hmm. If you want a dependable way to make sure that you hit your billable hours, I will tell you how to connect with me at the end of this video. Okay? So stay with me. I'm Michelle Thompson with Resistant Vision Coaching and Consulting, where I work with women lawyers working 70 to 90 hours a week who are exhausted, frustrated, and near burnout to grow their practices and increase their billables without sacrificing their health and time with their friends and families. So, lawyers, and you're one of them, very well view billable hours as the bane of your existence for good reason. And they are challenging, but they may help us structure our work to focus on what we do best. Let's dig into this a little more. They often feel like random requirements of practicing law, right? And we don't feel like we're in control over how we use our time. When you're not in charge of setting up your caseload and workflow, this is definitely the case. You see this both in large law firms because other people are doing it, but even in solo firms when you feel like you're drinking out of a fire hose because of all the cases that clients have given you, right? It's the same set of feelings. Both sets of lawyers have a rhythm of feast or famine with work. For some of you, it may be a nonstop feast. I want to tell you the story of a former client of mine named Brandy. So she came to me and she was in a state of fight, flight, or freeze, right? Her blood pressure was really high. She had tachycardia, which is high blood pressure. And she often showed up to meetings with me having gotten having not slept the night before, right? She hadn't slept for 24 to 36 hours and she was exhausted. And it's because she was drinking out of this fire hose of work. She loved mergers and acquisitions, but it was just too much. I want you to take a moment to notice something. You get the feast or famine, the feast, because your work is in your zone of genius. It's what you're really good at. And people want you to do it because you're so damn good at it. So Brandy was so good at her work that she hired a headhunter, and that headhunter found her a job in-house at a corporation. The last day of her job, her one of the partners of her firm said, "Hey, let's have lunch." And she said, "Sure, we'll eat." And they said, you're making a huge mistake. We want you to stay." And they moved her out of the group that she was in. She got a new supervisor and they gave her more time. She was starting to do pro bono work and starting to go do the things she loved, like roller derby and choir. Wow. So what she actually got was a chance to restructure how she managed the hours that came her way. And that's what you need, right? That way there can be a stream of water coming out of the hose as opposed to a nonstop gush. But how can you structure your time to prevent the gush? Well, let me tell you about my practice with law. My last law job, I was working with a labor law firm, and I was hired in part to negotiate collective bargaining agreements. And that meant that workers actually had to rethink how they went about the process of complaining about what was happening in the workplace in ways that were violating the contract that we had negotiated. Their delegates were going to have to do that work. So I'd spent time training delegates to do it, but then the rubber hit the road and it was time to negotiate all of the agreements. So they would call me, "Hey, the boss did this." And I couldn't handle their cases because I was busy trying to negotiate. So what did I do? I actually left, it was back in the days where voicemail was very important, right? I left a voicemail that said, "Hey, thank you for your call. And if I'm bargaining, I'm going to be at this place bargaining today. If you need to talk to me about a case, we have to do this on Friday." Okay, so that was set up. And and they would know that I was bargaining and where I was bargaining the rest of the week. That meant that they were heard, that they knew that someone heard their plea, and they actually knew that they would have a time and a place where they could actually have their cases handled by someone, or by supervising the delegate, or by somebody who was not the delegate, who they really could trust. That was a huge boon for me, and I could actually focus on preparing for what I was doing at the bargaining table. So this may not work for you. I understand that. And the solution that Brandy had may not work for you. But when you have nonstop billables, it's really a sign that you're really good at what you're doing as a lawyer. You're working in your zone of genius. The question becomes how to structure your billable hours so you can manage the billables that come your way, or to make sure there are more billables that come your way. So at the end of this video, I invite you to take a moment to journal about what is in your zone of genius. Why does that work come your way, or why do clients come seek you out? And if you want one-to-one support with this, we can do a 2-hour strategy session to pull your structure together. And if you're interested, email me at info@resistantvision.com. If this was a really helpful video for you, I encourage you to like this video, share it, and go ahead and follow me on YouTube. All right, take care.